So I'm Matt Cumani, and I train a stable of 80 horses here at Ballarat.
I'm Wayne Kratzmann. I'm the business manager of Dwyer Racing.
Yeah, Alastair Dwyer, General Manager of Racing, Media and Communications.
Well, at the time, we really didn't know what was going to happen, and we thought that at one stage that racing may not continue. So we had to look at that. What do we do with the horses? They'd all have to go out on adjustment. You couldn't keep them in training, and we didn't know whether racing as such would continue. But luckily, that hasn't been the case, and thanks to Racing Victoria and everybody who's helped out, everyone's done the right thing, and racing has continued. So we haven't had a major change in those. Not from a training perspective, but certainly from the going to the races side of things have had to change a fair bit.
Yeah, look, it's had some pretty significant impacts, especially financially. Our three gaming venues, which sort of provide a lot of our revenue, had to close down, which had significant impacts financially on the club and also emotionally with our staff who had to be stood down. The great thing about the racing industry that we were able to continue, which was fantastic from a wagering point of view. We were able to get plenty of revenue through that, so we didn't miss any race days, which is a fantastic result. Probably one of our biggest revenue streams on a race day is our dining hospitality, which has sadly been cut short with plenty of race days run behind closed doors, and that has had a significant impact on the club's revenue streams. But luckily enough, Racing Victoria through this period has been able to provide some grants to the clubs, which has certainly helped offset some of those losses.
When the pandemic first hit and it became obvious that we were going to have lockdowns and changes to everyone's lifestyle, we did worry about what that effect would have on us, and we put some measures in place to perhaps mitigate the effects, depending on what was going to happen with lockdown and whether racing or not was going to continue, because we had seen in Europe, for example, that racing was put on hold for a few months. And so we started to make arrangements for what we might do with the horses if we weren't allowed to race them, but also if we weren't allowed to even exercise them and have the staff come into work. Thankfully, none of that came about. So in the end, we didn't really have to change much. So really, it was we were very lucky and very, very thankful.
Yeah, look, it's pretty devastating. The first year, we were celebrating 100th running of the Cox Plate. To have no one here, the atmosphere was just bizarre. It felt really empty. Obviously, the Valley's a coliseum with the people there, with 30,000 plus people on Cox Plate Day. And as I said, we lost a lot of revenue from a lot of the dining and corporates coming on course. We couldn't believe our luck when it happened for a second year in a row this year for the 101st running of the Ladbrokes Cox Plate. To let down our members and the public to be here on Cox Plate Day was terrible, and again the atmosphere was really flat. So credit to our broadcast partners to be able to bring the race days to some sort of life through the TV screens, but the place behind me here is built on atmosphere, and we certainly noticed not having crowds here, and hopefully never again will we run a Cox Plate without crowds.
What I think it probably has changed is our communication with our owners, because they've gone for a couple of years now without being able to come and visit their horses at the stable or get to the races. So while I think our communication was pretty good anyway, it's probably stepped up another notch. We've been more communication, more contact, more video content, and more reporting from the racecourse, when normally a lot of the owners would be there on the day and you'd have a chat with them and they'd be able to ask you questions. We've certainly had more conference calls, if you like, or FaceTime meetings with owners, particularly going into big races when normally you just do it all on race day when they come to the races. So that's certainly changed. I'm not sure whether a lot of that will continue going forward, because it's quite resource heavy. It takes a lot of time up to do things like that, and when you're going to be seeing the owners on race day anyway, it's probably not worth repeating the exercise on a phone or computer. So.
You already came to work, but you didn't have that interaction with owners. We weren't going to the races, and that's part of it. We've got over 2,000 owners, and you want to be part of it and get to the races. The reason they have a racehorse is that they want to go to the races and hopefully see them win. So all that was that all changed, and I guess things became a lot quieter from that perspective, though you still had the same amount of work to do. Well, it's the key part. It's integral to racing, and racing to continue without owners. You simply don't have horse ownership. No one can afford owners. Certainly trainers can't afford to own horses as well. So it's integral to that. It'll be just great. I was lucky enough to get to to Flemington on Melbourne Cup Day, and whilst we only had 10,000 people there, it was just marvellous to have people back on track. So things somewhat get back to normal with owners back on the track. So that'll be great.
Yeah, I think there was certainly a different feel on race day, less noise and less pressure. But horses are amazingly adaptable. Really, they sort of tend to put up with a lot. Really, they you've got to, every time you do something with the horse, it's there's always going to be a first time, and so long as they have a good experience that first time, they tend to learn from it very well, and they adapt to it, and they get very used to it. So, but at some point, the crowds are coming back, thankfully. So the horses are going to have to get used to it at some point, and sometimes it's better that they do it when they're young and everything's new, and they get used to it quickly that way, rather than do it later on in their career when they're used to having quiet race horses. So
I think they handled it brilliantly. It's been how the hell we got through 2 years without losing any race meetings is really amazing. And I think kudos has to go to the staff as well. They've been prepared to be double vaxxed, and whilst they found out, I think at one stage they were a little bit slow to take that up, particularly some of our younger workers. Once they realised it was part of their job and to keep their job they need to be, they embraced that pretty quickly.
Well, I don't think you can complain with how they handled it, because we've come through it very well. We never had to have a shutdown in racing. I think there have been some very close calls when it looked like it might, come into the racing industry and cause a problem. But I think it was quite quickly snuffed out and caught by Racing Victoria early. So I think they've done a very good job as a member of the industry to complain. I think they've done it in the best interest of all of us participants and the stakeholders. So I think on the whole they've done a very good job.
So the crowds will return for Ladbroke's Friday Night Lights and moving forward. There's still a few little things in place which hopefully will come off when we hit our 90% double dose, but the feeling around the place has changed dramatically. We're all really excited internally as a club to have crowds back here and our members, and we know that the members and general public are desperate to get back here. So when the weather's good, there's no better place to be at the Valley trackside. Sometimes the rain does dampen the spirits a little bit, but look, we're really excited to see the back of COVID, and hopefully it's onwards and upwards from here.
So what does the future hold for Cumani Racing? Well, hopefully lots of winners, some big Group 1s on the horizon. We've come very close to winning some Group 1s last year. So I think we're eyeing up some big trophies, and hopefully that'll happen sooner rather than later.
Really exciting times, I think. We've got brand new facilities up here at Ballarat. We've only been here 18 months, and we've got a brand new group of people and staff, and we're really looking forward to it. So plenty of winners, I hope.